Mic check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, what's up, everybody? So I was on Twitter earlier, and I looked up and I noticed that Roger Goodell had made some comments about Colin Kaepernick getting reinstated in the league, and I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, why are we still talking about this dude in 2019? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Um, but Goodell addressed the question, and I'm gonna read a little bit of an excerpt from that as part of the press conference that he threw uh, down in Atlanta with regards to Super Bowl 53. It says here Roger Goodell says decision to sign Colin Kaepernick is up to teams. Interesting, he put it that way. Okay, let's read this a little bit here. During a press conference from Super Bowl 53 in Atlanta, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell was asked why quarterback Colin Kaepernick has not been signed to a team since opting out of his contract with the 49ers in March of 2017. Goodell said that clubs are the ones who determine the players on their rosters. If I think I think if a team decides that Colin Kaepernick or any other player can help their team win, that's what they'll do, Goodell said. They want to win, and they make those decisions individually in the best interest of their club. So what Goodell is saying here is that, hey, this guy's in the league because we don't think he's good enough to be signed to a roster because he's not good enough to perform in a manner that will help a team win. And that's really the reality of the situation. Because keep in mind, there have been plenty other players in the NFL who are guilty of really bad things, and yet they got a chance to play in the league again. People like Josh Gordon, before he messed around and got his ass kicked out again a few months ago. I mean, it's crazy. Josh Gordon would be in the Super Bowl right now if he hadn't screwed up, but he did. But regardless of all the problems that kid had, he still got a chance with the New England Patriots of all people who, they don't just mess with anybody on their roster. But because Josh Gordon is such a talented character, such a talented player, he was given that third chance because he's such a good player. But Colin Kaepernick, mysteriously, even though everybody's saying that he deserves another chance, he's not getting one. Why is that? Now, obviously, a lot of people want to make this about him being blackballed and kicked out of the league because of all that. I've been saying the whole time that's not it. That's not it. It really isn't. This guy basically burst on the scene back in 2012 and 2013 when he led his team to the Super Bowl, came out of nowhere, really off the bench, got an opportunity after Alex Smith, the starting quarterback at that time for the 49ers, was hurt. After that, Colin Kaepernick came in, took advantage of the situation, and rode a wave, taking that team all the way to the Super Bowl. And then the following year, he nearly pulled it off again by getting them to the NFC Championship game. And then after that, he fell off since that time. Now, to kind of bring my point home, I'm going to go here to a blog titled up here. It's called NinerNoise.com. This is a blog related to all things San Francisco 49ers. Okay, that's what this blog is about. And it was written by this guy, Peter Panassi, 2 years ago. Not quite 3 years ago, but 2 years ago. And listen to some of the key points as to how Colin Kaepernick lost the 49ers quarterback competition because at that time, his fall off was pretty evident. Um, Jim Harbaugh, I think, was no longer the coach there, and he was obviously the guy that made the Kaepernick magic happen. But with him not being there anymore, and Chip Kelly, the genius college coach from Oregon, coming in the scene, things just did never really click again for Kaepernick. But the thing was, the chinks in the armor were already beginning to show. And I'm going to read some things here to kind of bring that point home. It says here, fall from grace. To better understand where Kaepernick is now, and this is over 2 years ago, we have to recall where he was not long ago. Remember the 49ers playoff run after the 2012 season? Remember the game versus the Green Bay Packers? Yeah, that game. And by the way, I remember that game. He really balled out. Um, he really put that team on his back and carried them home. I remember the 49ers pretty much flustered Aaron Rodgers in that game and kept him from doing the things that he wanted to do. And Kaepernick really shined in that game. I remember that. And he says, we don't need to draw up words or analysis to recall what the league thought of Cap back then. And then you have some video to bring that point home. But let's just go on here. It says 2013 looked to be the same sort of year. And not surprisingly, the 49ers made it back to the NFC Championship for the third consecutive year. But then 2014 happened. There was tumult between then head coach Jim Harbaugh and the front office, and Kaepernick looked, well, like a so-so quarterback. And 2015 was an absolute mess. Cap was benched in week 9 and then sidelined by non-throwing shoulder injury. Okay, and then it goes through some things about the front office, which is really interesting, by the way. There was a lot of turmoil between Kaepernick and the general manager, Trent Baalke, at that time. Um, the writer goes on to insinuate that perhaps they were trying to ease Kaepernick out anyway, setting him up to fail. Could be, could be. But I'm not. I'm going to get into that right now. What I'm going to get down, I'm going to go down here and just get into the real reason why Kaepernick fell off. And this should give us some insight into where he is now and why he is now in the situation that he is now, where he can't even get a job, not even as a backup. And I'm gonna start right here. The real reason Kaepernick lost his job. Okay, let's go into it. It says everything already stated influenced Kaepernick's losing the starting bid. But the number one reason why it fell into place this way is simple. Kaepernick didn't adjust to the league after the league adjusted to him. You see that? That's it right there. That's the issue. That's the issue. This is why Colin Kaepernick cannot really get a job in the NFL anymore. That's it's just that simple. Now, it says here, Cap needed an excellent running game to help set up play action and read option passes, two areas in which he thrived. During his peak, the 49ers had some of the most intrinsic and dynamic rushing attacks in the NFL. And that's true. Kaepernick was very dynamic in that RPO offense at that time. Putting it bluntly, Kaepernick fit well into the Niners scheme under Harbaugh. It worked, Cap thrived. Now, here's a key point I want you guys to see. Listen to this. NFL Films senior editor Greg Cosell was far more to the point about what happened. Now check this out. This is Greg Cosell, this NFL Films senior editor, and I think he's also a scout for the NFL network as well, if I'm not mistaken. But let's do what this guy had to say about Kaepernick. He goes on and he says, Obviously, I don't know what's in his head or how his work habits are or things of that nature. First of all, I think the 49ers with Greg Roman had the most multiple, diverse run game in the National Football League. And I think that really helped Colin Kaepernick. Now, he was included in that run game because they did an awful lot with him. And that was that stretch of a couple of years where the running quarterback with the read option concepts sort of took the league by storm. And then a lot of defensive coaches in the league, because they're pretty smart, figured out how to defend that better. So you don't see it as much now. And I think that hurt Colin Kaepernick, and you couldn't protect him quite as much. One thing that was really evident in watching the tape was that Kaepernick did not see things clearly, so he did not advance as a quarterback in the areas that you need to advance, the mental areas of the game. He can still throw the ball really hard. He's got a powerful arm. He's still a fast runner, but I think you have to advance in the mental parts of the game, both in an understanding of your own offense and the understanding of defense. And I think he was a little stunted there up to this point. Hmm. So that's a veteran, uh, a veteran member of the NFL Films department telling you, somebody that has watched God only knows how many hours and hours and hours of film breaking down quarterbacks for years and years and years. He knows what he's looking at. He knows what to look for. And this guy is telling you that Kaepernick got figured out. He got figured out pretty quickly. Took him a couple of years, but it's fairly quickly. And he never adjusted. And you see here a quote to kind of piggyback on that. Arizona Cardinals defensive back Tyrann Mathieu at the time posted week 2 comments from last year, and I read those. He basically said that they had dumbed down the offense and made things so simple for Kaepernick to be able to run the offense from a passing standpoint, and yet they were jumping routes and intercepting his passes because he had not grown in the mental aspect of the game. He had not grown. He was just kind of trying to rely on the old things that had worked for him. Basically, when things break down, you take off and run. But like the guy said earlier, these defensive coordinators are smart, man. They're geniuses. That's why. That's why they're in the National Football League, and they're going to figure out what you're doing, and then they're going to stop you. And when they stop you, it's up to you to make the adjustment. But your boy Colin Kaepernick never made that adjustment, and that's why he's still in free agency limbo, perhaps hoping for a job, maybe perhaps not. Now, obviously, since that time, the whole kneeling situation has taken place, and he's gone on and become a pop culture touchstone, an icon for liberal politics and such. And also, he's gone on to sue the NFL. So, with all of those things in factor, it's hard for me to envision him ever getting a job back in the league. Now he's only 31 years old, and you figure he's got a little bit of life left in those legs. He's certainly got a lot of life left in that arm, which was the two calling cards of his legs and his arm. But if he has not yet graduated to the point where he can understand and read NFL defenses and get a grasp of NFL offensive concepts, you know, he's going to be right where he was 3, 4, 5 years ago. So we need to get around the socio-political stuff that they're trying to tell you about surrounding this guy. and get down to the nitty gritty. We'll see what happens because he's still, like I said, fairly young. But until this guy proves that he can be more than a mediocre quarterback, he's never going to see any real time on the NFL field again. Maybe unless it's on the sidelines holding the clipboard. But we'll see. And I'm not hating on the brother. I'm just telling y'all like it is. You know, it's just common sense and just being realistic. He's got to show that he can do more than just run with the ball on third down and long. It's just that simple. Well, that's all I got for now. Y'all be cool.